Hi everybody, how you doing?
Hi everyone, here's a video on how to make a spreadsheet with Google Sheets and how we're going to do it to make a scatter plot and do linear regression. Now in the past I did this with Excel, and if you haven't seen Excel before, this is what it looks like. You may use it in the future in college or career. Because we don't have the computers anymore and Windows, we can't use Excel, so we're going to use Google Sheets, which is almost the same capability. It's just a slightly different format. So once you're logged in as yourself, make sure you're logged in with your school account. You're going to hit the waffle here and you're going to go to Sheets. Google Sheets is Google's version of Excel. You can make spreadsheets and you can do data analysis. So when you have your data, you're going to enter it in, and you'll probably, depending on your data, you might have 2 or 3 columns. If your data has anything to do with time, then you're probably going to have 3 columns, because in your first column will be the year. I'm just making up years right now. And then your next column would be where you start the ticker at 0 and you let your actual X value be the number of years since 1991, for example. Because otherwise, if you don't adjust your independent variable X and you don't start the timer at 0, your y-intercept is going to give you really wacky results, like with the apple picking data when the price per pound was like negative $38. So we want to avoid that. So when you have your data, you're going to enter it in either 2 or 3 columns. If your data has nothing to do with time, then you will only need 2 columns. 1 column for X. So A will be your X, B will be your Y. And after you have your data entered, it'll look something like this. And notice I'm just using the MySpace data that we did in class that we compared to Facebook data. So we're going to format this a little bit first of all, just to make it look a little bit nicer. So the way you format is you start on the top left, you hold down, and you drag till you're highlighting everything. And you can, one good thing to do is center it so it looks nicer. If you want to change your font, you can pick a font here that you like. Oh, that's not a good one. All right, I'll do that one. If you want to make it bold, you can make it bold, etc. Now, if you left-hand click, what you can do is scroll down, and conditional formatting is going to format the cells you have highlighted. And what conditional formatting will let you do is just give them a color, maybe put a box around it, just so it stands out a little bit more and actually looks like a table. So I'm going to hit add new rule, and then you can pick the color that you want, whether you want yellow, green, pink, hit done. And it'll just make it stand out a little bit so it looks a little bit more like a table and not just like random numbers and boxes here. Okay, so that's the table, and now we're going to actually insert a scatter plot for our data. So in the top, notice that the top row is just the titles, it's not the actual data. I'm going to keep the title bold and the numbers not bold just because I like how that looks. So you can format it how you want as long as there's some kind of formatting going on, so I know that you know what you're doing here and can do it. So I'm going to highlight my X and my Y. I'm not highlighting this column because that's not a column that's going to be on an actual axis. Just highlight the columns you're working with on the table. And what I'm going to do is, you can go away, and I'm going to do insert, and we're going to insert a chart. If you think you're going to forget these steps, you can just write down some brief comments for yourself in your notebooks. So you can just like pick up the table and move it around. But we're doing linear regression with scatter plots, so we definitely don't want this histogram going on. So chart type, there's all kinds of stuff that this can do. We want a scatter plot. All right, you want to make sure it says use column B as labels, because if you don't do that, it gives you some kind of funky thing going on, and it's plotting your 2 columns as like separate points whenever one should be the X, one should be the Y. So make sure you use column B as labels is highlighted, and then you have your X and your Y. And this here, the data range tells you that this is the data starting from B1 and going until C9. Now let's say you have clicked on the actual sheet and that box went away, the formatting box. All you have to do is double click your actual chart and this whole thing comes back, because this is where everything's happening. Also notice if you change something in the table, like let's say I was like, oh shoot, that's supposed to be a 3. It'll immediately adjust it. So if you mess up a number in your table, it's not a big deal. It immediately changes it and fixes it for you. So now what you want to do is actually add a trend line, which is the line of best fit or the least squares regression line. And we want to find the equation for the line of best fit and our R value. So all of that's going to be happening under customize. So So this is actual data. I'm happy with the data that I'm using, and I'm going to do customize. So just go through these one by one, and then you won't forget anything. Chart style. So this is where you can choose pretty much any color you want, and you can go crazy with your colors here. I'm kind of feeling green right now. Very bright green. So pick any color you want, maybe Comic Sans. And don't click either of these, because if you do maximize, it just makes it look, you don't get a nice view of what's actually going on. Okay, so I'm gonna minimize that so it goes away, and now let's do chart and axis titles. So this is cool because you just work your way through each one. Start with the chart title. So this is the millions of my, oh my God, can't type, MySpace users, enter. Once I've hit enter, I can format it real quick. So if I still want Comic Sans, I can do it. The font size, you can change the font size or do auto. You can do changing the color. So you can go crazy with the colors here. I want my title in the center, personal preference, and I want it bold. Okay, my title's good. Now you're gonna click here and you're gonna go to horizontal axis title. My horizontal axis title is number of years since 2013, basically just time. Okay, and you can format that however you please. And then I'm going to do the vertical axis title, and that is users, and it's in millions, or you do millions of users, however you want to phrase it, as long as you're giving everything a label so that anyone looking at your graph would know what's going on. And if you want to bold these things, you can make them bold. Horizontal, I want it bold. Okay, you don't have to do chart subtitle. It's really not necessary to do subtitle, but if you really want a subtitle for more description, feel free to do that. So I'm minimizing titles, and now let's go to series. So for the series, this is where you can pick the size. So if you want stars instead of points, here's your time to pick that. You can pick a hexagon dot, so many options. Your points, so if you want your points bigger, you can do that as well. All right, this is the important part. You need your trend line. That's your line of best fit, and it should be the exact same as the one that your graphing calculator gets you. So in your project, you're doing this by hand on this spreadsheet and on your TI graphing calculator, or borrowing one from me, and you should get the same equation on the TI and here. The one by hand will be a little different because, again, we're not computers or machines, so it's just an approximation. If you want to label your points, you can feel free to do that. We don't need the error bars, so don't even deal with that. All right, make sure that you have, you have the linear, because this is linear modeling, not another type. You can go crazy with the line color. You can make the line thicker if you want, whatever you want. Here's the other thing I want you to click. Show R squared. Now you might be thinking, we didn't do R squared, we did R. And that's true, but this doesn't show you R. So at the very least, we get R squared, and then you could quickly do the square root of this number and get your R value. All right, so that is pretty much all there. Oh, if you want to give like a special label for your trend line name, you can do that as well, but that's pretty good. Minimize that. We don't need a legend, so don't worry about that. And that's all. Once you have your scatter plot, your line of best fit, your R square, just make it big so it actually like is very visible and easy to read. Once it has taken up pretty much the whole thing, you're gonna hit share. You can save it. All your changes are saved in your drive. You're gonna hit share and put your name here. So it'd be like Rossi Scatterplot Project. Put your last name so I know. Save it, and then you would put me in, Rossi C2 at worcesterschools.net. If you want to put some kind of note or comment, go ahead. Make sure you can say can view or can edit. That way it can actually see. Can edit is the safest bet because then I can like totally open it and there's no restrictions. And then you hit send. Then I get the email and I can open it. There's no need to print this out because I'm going to get it in my email and then I can see your full color and formatting easily without having to use black and white printing. All right, cool. So when I see you in class, you're going to log onto your Chromebooks and immediately get started. Make sure you have your data ready to go. Hopefully you have logged onto a Chromebook before. If not, just make sure you have your email and your password. I can reset the password if need be. All right, see you later.